Let's talk about your toast or eulogy that you might be doing. There's a very specific structure that I want you to follow for this. Now, I don't want you running around telling other people, hey, you did it wrong. My teacher said you have to do it this way. That's just not how speech works. That's how math works. One plus one always equals two in mathematics. Speech is an art form. There's no 100% correct way. But what I am going to teach you about this organizational pattern works. It works really, really well. It is something I have personally researched myself and have practiced and used myself as well as my students have used it very well. And I have watched it work time and time again. By following the structure pattern, you should be able to create a toast or a eulogy in about 5 to 10 minutes. That's it. And that is important. All right. Usually, when you're giving a toast or eulogy, the speech is not the number one thing you are thinking about. Remember that. All right. When my grandmother died, the first thing on my mind wasn't, oh, I'm going to give a eulogy about her. It was the fact my grandmother died and wondering how my uncle was handling things and how my mom was handling things. And all of that was way more important than the speech. In fact, I didn't even know I was giving the eulogy until my uncle in the limo ride to the service just turns to me and says, "You're going to do it." And I'm like, "Wait, do what? You already told me I'm going to be a pallbearer. What?" He's like, "You got to give the eulogy. I can't do it. I emotionally can't do it. It's got to be you." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm the speech guy in the family. That's my job." And I had the rest of the limo ride, about 10 minutes, to think of it. That's why having this structure set really, really works. So you begin by taking a look at the introduction. You have an introduction or an intro. And the very first thing you might want to do is state your association to the person. Now, you might not have to. At my grandmother's funeral, they introduced me as her grandson, Mark. I didn't have to then wait and go, I'm her grandson. No, everyone had already heard it. So pay attention to how you're introduced. It might end up being that your association is said ahead of time. If it's not, you need to establish this as a reason why you're a credible person to talk about them. All right. You don't have strangers give toasts and eulogies to people. You have people who know them. You then want to have an attention getter, and it's usually some funny or amusing story about the person. All right. This probably seems very natural for a toast. It might seem a little strange for a eulogy, but trust me, at funerals, people are bundles of emotion. They're sad that the person's gone. They're angry that the person's gone. They maybe feel guilty because the last thing they told them was catch you later instead of I love you. All of these emotions, and they're basically supposed to sit there quietly and do nothing. Uh, Having a bit of humor allows people to release that tension in the form of laughter. Now, you do not want to make the person who's passed on be the brunt of the joke, but there can still be a lot of funny things involved in there. At my grandmother's funeral, it was a story about how I wanted to pet a snake. All right. And it happened to be a rattlesnake. And it was my grandmother who pulled me aside and taught me lessons that you probably shouldn't pet a snake. Everyone laughed. They thought it was so cute that a little kid wanted to pet a snake. So you have this. You then move on to the main body, okay? And the main body of the toast or eulogy is the part where you really get to choose how long it's going to take. Now, what you're going to want is at least two endearing attributes about the person. What is something good about them? You're going to want at least two. Otherwise, it seems like you can only think of one good thing about them. You can have more. You can have three or even four. That's fine. Probably don't want to go much more over four. You might also have a story illustrating how they use these things. Now, make sure the endearing attribute fits the event. All right. If you're toasting someone for graduating from college, you probably don't want to talk about how kind they are. okay, it's great that they're kind. How the heck did that help them graduate college? Instead, you want attributes that are associated with that: intelligence, hardworking, having perseverance, things like that help you graduate college. Being kind might make you popular in college, but it probably doesn't help you graduate much. So you're going to have at least two of these. You then get on to what's called the honoring comment or the mournful comment. Basically, this is where you're mentioning the event that has happened. So you've almost set up an argument that because of these good things, it's not a surprise that Frank is graduating. All right. Because, you know, Tyrell is kind and devoted and honest, he's going to make a good husband, things like that. And then for the mournful, it's because of these good things. That's why we miss them. All right. So it's your moment to basically say, because of this evidence I've just given you, this is why they were awesome and we should be paying tribute to them. After that, you move on to the conclusion. Now, you might have a brief review, only if it's over 5 minutes. In my class, you shouldn't have a review because you're not supposed to go over 4 minutes. But in a long speech, yes, you might want a bit of a review. This usually does not happen at a toast. There aren't a lot of toasts or speeches that go over 5 minutes, but there definitely can be eulogies that go that long. When Senator John McCain passed away, there were multiple eulogies given at his funeral. Many of them were over 5 minutes in length. You then have to think about the future. All right. For a toast, this would be the actual toast. So raise your glasses with me. For a eulogy, this is usually some lesson from their life or some legacy that they've left behind. All right. It makes people feel better knowing that the loved one who passed away did something with their life and mattered. And this is your chance to showcase it, to mention what it was. And this was actually the only part that was hard for me at my grandmother's funeral. My grandmother actually didn't do a lot. She worked as an orderly in a sanitarium and then retired. Uh, and it was when I got up there and I looked at the front row and I saw my uncle and my mom, I realized that actually was her legacy because she was a middle school dropout, dropped out of 8th grade. And she ended up having two children that went on to get master's degrees, one in applied mathematics and another one in botany. Not exactly the easiest master's degrees to get. And that's an amazing jump. And it's because of her devotion as a parent that these things happen. So do try to do that. And finally, try to link it back to the original humorous story that you had. It makes it nice and circular. If you do this, you can do amazing things. You can very easily give a toast or a eulogy. So for your assignment for the toast and eulogy, I'm going to want you to follow this structure that we have here, and be sure to do that. And I'm sure you'll have an awesome, awesome speech.